Hey, we got a good show lined up for you today.
20 years into the internet for the auto industry.
To me, that's the biggest change in what's going on.
Well, hey, folks, welcome. As you know, we're here live. It's Wednesday, March 7th. Got Frank Lopes on the air with us from Get More Frank. Frank is VP at Forrest and Blake Marketing. If you don't know him, he's a keynote speaker at industry events. He is also now the MC and host at digital dealer conferences, where we just were a few weeks ago, and that was pretty cool. And now you're hosting Get More Frank 365. Frank, tell us what that's about.
Well, Get More Frank 365 is basically, it's an effort from me. It's a part of me. It's twofold. It's a part of me fulfilling something that I've always had a drive to do, which is to consistently put out content, on a daily basis. It's one of those things where, where it's been eaten at me for a while. A friend of mine suggested to me that I do it, thinking that it would, number one, because he does it, and number two, thinking that it would be fantastic for me to put my content out at that type of a pace, a piece of content a day. So it's just a way for me to take something, for me to put my content out and for people to see it. And the whole idea of my content, if anybody who watches the show or anybody who knows me personally, the amount of promotional content that, that I put out is right there. It's a big goose egg. It's nothing. Everything that I put out is to help other people, and I try to focus on salespeople the most, because I remember when I was an automotive salesperson, nobody helped me, and they're the ones who really need the most help, to be honest. So it's all so it's all for them, and it's all for people in the industry, and then, like I said, it's messages from people outside the industry that I know that all of us need to see that would benefit us all.
So where are you putting this content? Are you putting it on Facebook Live? Are you recording it? How are you releasing or publishing the show?
Yeah, right now it's all curated content, right? So it's all content that's already been recorded or whatever, but either it's never been put out, it's never been shared, and I take it and have it edited down into no more than like 3 or 4 minute segments. That's it. It's always something that's extremely quick. So one day it could be a rebroadcast of a Facebook Live. Another day it could be a piece of curated content. Another day it could be something that I saw on your show, Ryan, that I thought would be of good value for people to see.
Hopefully there's lots of that.
And I'll curate that.
Where do I go to? Where can our audience go and get this? Is there
right? Yeah. So
where is it?
Absolutely, it's going to be on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. So okay. A new episode drops every night on Facebook at 8:00, and then it reposts the next day twice a day.
Okay. So congratulations on that. I think it's great. And that brings up something that you heard me mention, which is we are definitely seeing a massive uptick in the number of people taking to Facebook Live specifically. Yeah. Auto Dealer Live has been doing their show. They're on like episode 370 something. So they've been at it for a few years, and they've really come a long way and have a fantastic production. I saw Lisa Copeland using Zoom actually specifically through Facebook Live, and she had David Cribbs on there. I know Ziegler does a lot. Mike Phillips has been podcasting for a couple of years. He was on last week. Now he's starting to bring his show live. So, who else is there? Koenig's gets up there a lot.
Yeah, Koenig jumps on there every day without a doubt.
Joey Little. So, at what point are we going to have too many? Are we at a point where we have too many shows?
We'll never have a point. There'll never be a point of too many shows, I don't think, because the market's always going to dictate. Market's always going to dictate what's good and what's not good and what wants to be seen and not seen. And then eventually the people, to be honest, if they don't get a lot of views, they wind up backing out themselves, Well,
that's a good, so what makes a show worth it? Is it the live attendance? Is it the people that see it afterwards? And how do you really know? Because Facebook marks it as a view. If it plays for 3 seconds, it's counted as a view. So how do you really know what your content, what your live show is doing for you?
I think if you're creating content, you just know. You just know because you get you wind up getting feedback. Like, for example, I'm constantly trying to improve what I'm putting out, right? So I know that it's working if I get feedback from people that most of the time is people that I don't know. My Facebook Messenger every day, I got to spend at least an hour or two on it, just replying to people who are either asking for advice or saying, "Hey, I saw the show when you talked about this. Can you explain a little bit more?" And that's been happening ever since I'm very blessed. That's been happening ever since I started putting content out. About 3 years ago. So I think that's basically how you know. I mean, the stats are one thing, but Gary Vaynerchuk says 1 is greater than 0, right? So if you have, if you look and you don't have a lot of views, but at the same time, you have 3 people that reached out to you and said that either that piece of content or your show helped them or got them past a hard time in their life or whatever, then in my book, to me, that's a success, and that's totally worth doing.
Frank, I want to segue into our conversation, what you call the shift in BDC or from BDC into FCC, First Communication Center. Mm-hmm. So are you coining that? Are you coining that phrase and that?
I think I should. I think I should go and I think maybe I should file for a patent on that, on that, or a copyright, I should say. I'm sorry. I should file for a copyright on the saying. And it struck me, a few weeks ago because there's a tremendous shift right now in the foundation of the whole BDC department and BDC philosophy and execution of tactics in the department and everything. And I was actually on the plane from Digital Dealer Workshop in Chicago, right, going down to Tampa to be on Auto Dealer Live with David Avila, and this was heavy on my mind for some reason. I have no idea why. Probably because there was so much conversation at Digital Dealer Workshop about it, and it brought me to this thought process of when BDCs first started, most of the people that were in them were salespeople, were prior salespeople or prior managers, and they were just instructed on the whole philosophy of just get the guy in, right? Just get the customer in. If you got a guy on the phone, just get him in, no matter what. So all we started doing in all that was done in BDC departments at that time, and in most BDC departments now, is they just focus on doing one thing, which is selling the appointment, right? Mm-hmm. But now think about it. This trend really started hard, 3 to 6 years ago. Okay. So where it was just get him in, sell him the appointment, sell him on the appointment. Okay. At that time, most customers, this was their first experience of going through purchasing a vehicle and using, at that time, of being able to use dealers' websites and being able to use research websites and everything. It was basically their first or maybe their second shot on it. Right. Now, remember what I said before when I used the analogy of the camera equipment, right? We're only doing we do this every day, but a customer only buys a car at most, if they're a lease customer, you're talking about once every 3 years, right? So it takes a little bit of time to get used to the process, and eventually you'll call up a dealership and say, I'm on your website, and it'll be, well, when are you going to come in to test drive that car? When can you come in? When can you come in?
And I'm going to interject there and just emphasize customers don't give a hoot about your process.
They don't care. They care about their process.
Yeah, they're like, they're not going in thinking, I wonder what the dealer's process is. In fact, I would argue that once the consumer feels like they're in a process, you're going to get resistance from the
right. Shop. Exactly. So you're talking about 3 to 6 years ago. So, like I said, people with their first experience of being able to research online, being on a dealer's website, and to be honest, 6 years ago, things were good, right? Things are still good, but that's a whole nother conversation. But
they were going up. The tide was rising.
We're on the, the tide's rising. So everybody's thinking that tactics worked. Okay. So the customer 3 to 6 years ago jumps into the funnel, right? And he falls out. Now remember, he doesn't jump into the funnel again for another 3 to 6 years. Okay. But in that process of time, in that period of time, right, culture has continued to change and has continued to evolve, right? So in that 3 to 6 years, the customer still doing things online, obviously, right, has completely become, let's just say, spoiled, right, by the fact of instant gratification, by the fact of Amazon, by the fact of Apple, by the fact of all of those other types of experiences that they're having online, right? The cycle comes around 3 to 6 years again. They're back into the funnel to buy a car, right? They get, they go on the website. They get in touch with the dealer. The dealer says to them, "Okay, well, yeah, that car's in stock. When would you like to come in?" And they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. I'm not ready to come in yet. I'm not ready to come in. I still got more questions. I still want to know this. I want to know, hey, I got this trade. How much do you think you can get me for that? What do you think my payment's going to be? What do you think my percentage rate's going to be?" And we're still trained, and all we know is to get them in, right? We fold. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say it's not so much of a business development center type of an idea, because to be honest, the business is there. Phones ringing, leads are coming in, or we're buying leads, right? So we have people to talk to. So it's really, the focus has to change from that get them in to how are you communicating with these customers, these potential customers.
So I don't think you're going to get much disagreement with what you're saying. I'm looking here at comments. I'm going to read a couple. Mike Phillips says, BDCs were created as a way to satisfy the shortcomings in follow-up suffered by a new wave of salespeople. And Stawning backs it up. BDCs only exist because managers can't get their salespeople to follow up on a process. And Amanda, I see you emphasize my point that customers don't care about the process. So I don't think you're going to get much argument out there. But here's my question, just to round off this part of the conversation, because we do like to keep our show to about 30 to 40 minutes. When you talk to dealers, right, are they resisting this change, this evolution that, okay, the days of BDC are kind of an outdated concept, and we need to evolve our thinking and the role that they play?
Absolutely, because as we all know, the dealer is always the last one to evolve. Not in every single instance, but if you want to look at the masses, it's the dealer that's the last one to evolve, because human tendencies and human behavior kicks in, and they don't like change.
Sure.
They've been doing it a certain way. They don't like change. They don't like the risk of change, and they don't like the fact of not knowing what's going to happen. But one thing I think that and that's where the pushback comes. The pushback doesn't come from other people in the business, because we're exposed to it. We've already seen, and we're looking at it somewhat from the outside in. So our perspective is completely different from the guy who's sitting at the sales tower all day long, or the guy that's sitting in the general manager's office all day long, who's in his own little bubble. He doesn't see anything besides what's in front of him right there, and he's afraid to change. So that's where the pushback comes. They don't want to change the process.
So, Amanda, I see your comment that why is only the product evolving and not those who sell it? But is that fair to say? I mean, there are people evolving. Everyone we talk to, Mike Phillips adapts, Mike Davenport, people evolve, but is it a small percentage of people that are evolving? Is that the problem? We have coaches and trainers and consultants out there, the Joe Webbs and the Jennifer Suzuki's, and I could go on and on.
Yeah, but you know what, Ryan? We still have people that drink too much. We still have people that smoke cigarettes or smoke too many cigarettes. We still have people that walk around that are 20 to 50 to 80 to 100 pounds overweight, right? And every single one of us knows that we shouldn't drink, we shouldn't smoke, and we shouldn't eat bad food, okay? So yes, we're the last one to evolve, and I'll be the first one to say, hey, automotive industry, let's wake up and let's catch up to what our customers want. But at the same time, like I said before, you've got human behavior in there, and we're all still drinking, we're all still smoking, and we're all still eating McDonald's. So, it's a big, it's a big hill to climb.
Okay. All right. Well, great topic of conversation. I'd like to spend a couple minutes on another point that you had brought up, which is the numbers of vendors that you see in the space. NADA is 2 weeks away. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. I got a little plug in a minute around NADA. How many exhibitors, if you looked, do you know how many exhibitors are going to be there this year?
No, I haven't looked, but as we all know, NADA is, that's another one that I coined the term of vendor-geddon, right? Like Armageddon, because the exhibitor floor is, any vendor that you could possibly think of is there.
Yeah. But is it top heavy with vendors versus dealers? When you go to Digital Dealer, as an example, there's about 250 plus exhibitors there, and there's give or take 1,000 dealer attendees and maybe 400 to 500 non-dealer attendees. It just all depends on the event. So maybe it's about a 2-to-1 dealer to non-dealer ratio. I think NADA is,
NAD has got the ratio's got to be something similar to that, if not higher on the deal.
Yeah, I would think it's like 3 to 1, if not.
Yeah.
So speak to what you mean by such an increase in the number of vendors, and I think you also say that we're seeing a lot of vendors dissolve and disappear.
Yeah, when I say increase, what I really mean is that the size of the exhibitor floor at Digital Dealer, for example, right, or maybe at an NADA, I don't know the exact numbers on NADA, but the floor is not getting any larger. It's not like we're suddenly going to double the amount of square feet that's on the exhibitor floor. But you're starting to see over the last 2 Digital Dealers, you're starting to see a lot of new faces, right? And you're starting to like look around and go, oh, hey, where's this guy? Or like, you and I will pass each other, as we're walking around and say, hey, have you seen whatever? And I'll be like, no, I haven't seen him. I don't think he's here, because I think you're seeing the market is thinning the herd. All right. And that's where the attrition thing comes from. A lot of people are either they're not exhibiting because, trying to exhibiting and then paying people $50 to come to your booth to see a demo is not paying off.
Yeah.
So they don't want to, they don't want to do that, and they rely on the exhibitor space as their sales effort for the year because they don't spend any time creating value or creating relationships or anything. So they have to wind up going there and taking to tactics like what's the phrase, like boardwalk barkers. Right. So if you live on the East Coast, or if you grew up on the East Coast and you went walked up and down the boardwalk of any shore town, that every single vendor on on any of those booths on a boardwalk will hire barkers who will come out, stand a little bit into your pathway and try to lead you into their booth to play their game or to get your fortune told or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
You're seeing that very heavy right now at at conferences, even to the point of where it's almost like tradition that if you're a dealer or a dealer employee and you hit the floor at NADA, the first thing you do is you take your badge and turn it around.
Exactly.
Right? So that nobody can see the color. Which
basically also indicates you're a dealer.
Which also indicates that you're a dealer. Yeah, but you can't really tell 100%, and that backs some people off. Yeah. What's sad was that the last 2 Digital Dealers, right, that I saw a lot of flipped badges.
And so the solution there for the event company is to print the same thing on both sides.
Then
seal it so you can't put anything in there. In retail, online conversion and transactions, that's what matters in retail. But in B2B, that's not how it works. You don't go.
It's relationship.
Yeah, it's engagement and relationships. And before relationships comes engagement. And before engagement becomes awareness, and people have to be receptive to your message. And so that's what I focus on. That's why we do this show. That's why we do the podcast. That's why I go to these events and do these lives. So, but that being said, we're going to call this a wrap. Frank, thanks so much for making it today. It's great to have you on for your inaugural session with us, man. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, man. Anytime for you. Anytime.
And check out Get More Frank 365. We'll be back here next week. I got Donnie Dye from Simplify talking about his franchise marketer's playbook. Everyone have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.